I love it when it comes up and says you are live, because that means I've actually done something right already.
All right.
I just want to welcome and thank everybody who is joining Melanie Rigney, Meg Gilroy, and me for tonight's event for Melanie's new book, Menopause Moments, A Journey for Nourishing Your Mind, Body, and Spirit in Midlife. Any discussion with Melanie and Meg is filled with laughter. See, they're already laughing. But there also is going to be talk of finding compassion and love for each other and for ourselves at this time. One of the reviews for Menopause Moments really struck a chord with me, and I'm paraphrasing this review. But they said, written with a wit and wisdom that can only come from the woman, could only come from the heart of a mature woman steeped in God's love and word. It serves as a lovely reminder that while the world tries to tell women of a certain age that they have no worth anymore, God shows us otherwise. So I just thought that was beautiful. There was one I was sorely tempted to also read, which was about that it was a sweet reprieve like Dove chocolate at the end of a grueling day, which of course also resonated with me. As many of you know who are watching, Melanie is a prolific author who has written 4 books about saints, including Radical Saints, 21 Women for the 21st Century, Sisterhood of Saints, Daily Guidance and Inspiration, and more recently, Brotherhood of Saints. While not writing about saints, which she does extensively, Melanie loves discussing women's spirituality issues. She's a regular contributor to Living Faith, Catholic Mom, and so many more publications that I really don't have time to give them all, or we'd be here all night. We have been blessed to have Meg Gilroy join us for several of our previous events with Melanie. Meg brings a joy and thoughtfulness to any conversation. And while I know she has had a very full life, she is always fully present to the people and situations in front of her, which is an amazing gift. And we're thrilled to have her join us tonight. And I will be here as well, contributing what little bit I can. And as I was telling Mel and Meg earlier, I just had my 60th birthday on Monday, and it was one that it was a wonderful day, wonderful week, but I had, it was a little bit bittersweet for me too. So we are going to be asking a couple of, little trivia questions tonight. Maybe you'll win something. But if you have any questions, and also to put any answers in for trivia, you can just put it right over in the chat box there, and we will get to as many questions as possible. And when we're doing any kind of little trivia contest, whoever the first person is who gets their answer and that's correct will win. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Melanie.
Well, thank you, Eileen. I think it's going to be a triple threat evening. So look out, world. Again, I'm sure Meg joins me in giving you mad love and mad props for keeping one more page going and actually thriving during the pandemic.
Thank you.
Strong woman. And I will also say, though, some of our prizes tonight, you do get the pleasure of going into one more page. And for some of you who are maybe not so close to Arlington, we do have a set of prizes that are shippable. So please participate. So I'm going to give you a few facts and figures before we get rolling, but first, I have one of those trivia questions. So if you put in the comment your answer, please try not to use Mr. Google, but what the heck. So some of you might remember there was a television show a few years back called The Golden Girls. And it was about 3 women and their mom, and they all lived together in Florida and had just an uproarious time, and it went on for years. So the woman who owned the house was named Blanche Devereaux, and she was sex crazed. And everybody laughed about Blanche Devereaux, who was played by Rue McClanahan, being so sex crazed, because how was such an old woman so sex crazed? And so for our first set of prizes, and I'm not going to pause, I'm just going to keep going, but we'd like you to guess how old Rue McClanahan was when she began playing the sex crazed Blanche Devereaux. So I'm going to give you just a few facts and figures, and then we're going to move into what I think is going to be a great discussion. As usual, Meg's got some great chocolate and wine pairings for us for 3 particular body, mind, and spirit type things that you might be struggling with, or you may have struggled with in the run-up to menopause or even afterwards. All 3 of us will probably share some stories. We'd love to hear your stories too. So without further ado, about 65 million women in the United States are over the age of 40. And the American Congress of Obstetrics and Gynecology estimates that every day 6,000 women enter menopause. Every day. Now, this is all pretty interesting. And if you could please mute your mic, that would be great. So you might say, well, what's this all about? And if you've started this lovely journey, you probably know this. The big 4, they call them, are the body symptoms. And, our society tends to focus on body. We're not going to focus on that solely tonight. But hot flashes, light sleep, depression, and dryness down there. But the challenge is that there was a recent survey of medical residents. Now, keep in mind, we're talking 2020, right? Only 7% of medical residents said they felt adequately prepared to help a patient who was perimenopausal or menopausal. 7%. Forbes recently did a big thing on menopause, and they said that 1/3 of women who go through perimenopause and enter menopause have problems at work and don't say anything to anybody. Just kind of hide that hot flash, hide that irritability, because I guess it makes us less of a person or something. So that's the point. We're really not alone. We're part of a big group, and yet we kind of seem to be as ashamed and embarrassed about this as, which will tell you a lot about my age. I still remember going to this, not being willing to buy napkins, sanitary napkins at the drugstore because, then the guy behind the counter would know that I was having my period. And it's like, and when we were talking about this, we were all kind of going, oh, yeah, I remember my first period. And it's like you dreaded it and you anticipated it. And I think that's what we do as women sometimes. We both dread and anticipate so much that we miss out on the joy of the moment. Now, this happens to be a book that I wrote for a Catholic publisher. And you will find God in there because God's a big part of my life. Call it mindfulness, call it a higher power, call it whatever you want. There is a place in you and a place in your DNA and just the way you are structured, which is beautiful, that will allow you to find the joy in this time of life, just like you eventually found the joy in being a teenager, just like you eventually found the joy of being in your 20s. But I caution you not to let that go, not to focus so much on, and let's face it, they're bewildering. You look in the mirror and all of a sudden you got a mustache and you didn't yesterday. Or in my case, I looked at my hands on Monday and I held them up to my sister and I was like, I have grandma's hands. How did that happen? I've always been so proud of my hands, and they're crepey as grandma's was. Those aren't necessarily things to mourn. They're things to celebrate and embrace as well. Let's not look at this time as a this too shall pass and miss the joy and miss the opportunity to have community and just to kind of believe and honor that this is a special time of life. When I was writing this book, there was a quote in Galatians that really spoke to me. You are observing special times and months and excuse me, and seasons and years. And that's true regardless of whatever stage of life we're in. And if we don't recognize that, then we're squandering a gift. So tonight, as I said, we're going to kind of no holds barred here. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the funny. And we hope you'll share, and we hope that you'll come away with the idea that, in fact, this, like any other time of life, is a time to be celebrated, is a time to take care of yourself, and not a time to, hide behind a door, or, you're breaking out in a sweat in a meeting at the office and everybody knows, and you can't even acknowledge it. Let's take the secrecy out of this and just acknowledge it for a part of our lives. So the book is, it's really short. I think there are 40 reflections. Each one is only 2 pages. Well, one page for the reflection generally, and then there's opportunity to journal or an action item and that type of thing. And we will be giving away some candles and journal tonight too. So I'm going to read one real quickly, and then as usual, our dear friend Meg has some beautiful pairings to share with us. So I wanted to start with one that is extremely close to my heart because I am a marker of dates and time. It's called Counting Our Days. Maybe it was the big 4-0 or the big 5-0. Maybe it was your 20th wedding anniversary, or the certificate you received for 20 years with your employer. Maybe it was your son or daughter turning 13. But all these numbers overwhelm you and make you wish you could do something, anything to slow down time. You feel helpless when you know you should feel like celebrating. Sure, there are always 24 hours in the day, 7 days in a week, and so on. But they all seem to pass faster as we age, and that can be depressing. Consider looking at the positives that come with these milestones rather than mourning time's passage. Let's count our days so that we may gain a wise heart. And I know, Eileen, you were saying that, this was a milestone birthday for you.
It was, and it was something that I think I, felt very conflicted about it, because I felt like, oh my gosh, this really makes me feel old. But, so many of the people that are in my life are also older too. I mean, we all grow older together, and, I decided to not worry about that part of it, but instead to enjoy with all the people who wanted to celebrate that with me. And that, it became a very joy-filled, we started on the Friday before, that's my family, but it was a very joy-filled time, and it made me just, not think about that, but I know that it was still kind of in the back of my head. So I'm still sort of getting myself, to that, because I think, you always think that like 60 is so old, but that's not how I feel, even though my body says otherwise. But I think it's, there's like sometimes that disconnect between what your head thinks and, what your body says. But your reflections are helpful in that, because it helps you to think about them, that you're not the only person. We know we're not the only person, but that you're not the only person having gone through that. We all do, we all get older.
Well, and don't you think that's one of both the joys and the maddening things about social media? I'm thinking specifically about Facebook. That 10 years ago today, you were doing this. Yeah. 10 years ago, you were with this person, and maybe the person's died. And maybe, I mean, especially last year, it was hard. I think it can be really tempting to be like Lot's wife and look back. And
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not sure. Well, you know, I had a picture come up recently of being at a airport bar with my sister, and we were going overseas, and that was a great memory. But there's kind of a destructive force that can come if you spend too much of your life looking back, I think.
Well, and I think one of the other things, and my cousin and I talk about this, is, you know, we look at pictures of ourselves from way back when, and we think, oh, I looked fantastic. But, you know, at that time, you didn't think that. And so we're always so hard on ourselves, and critical of ourselves. And hopefully as we, you know, age, we become a little bit more forgiving of ourselves, or more accepting. I still wish that all of my clothes would fit me, but after the pandemic year, really none of them do. So, but you know what? It's kind of like, you know what? That's okay. You know, that's okay. Except you all see me in the same clothes all the time.
It's a uniform. You wear it.
It is. That's why I wear all those t-shirts, bookstore t-shirts.
So Meg, you've been around the world and you know, lived everywhere. And how do you feel about this, looking back versus looking forward?
Well, it's, you know, as you said, it's kind of like looking at a photo album. And one of the things that I thought about when I was little, I was an only child, but I came from a very large family on both sides. And so I had one of my grandmothers was still alive, but I also had a lot of aunts and great aunts who were there. So I was sort of surrounded by old ladies who were fascinating. And I wanted to somehow skip from being like 5 to being 85, because they just had the best lives. And, you know, if anybody sassed them, there was like the wooden spoon being whipped out. And like, whoa, people respect these women. And going into other cultures, especially in the Caribbean and in Asia, yeah, there's like the sexy young thing running around in the, you know, tank top and mini skirt, which was never me, because as my doctor once said to me during one of my physicals, you were never petite, were you? And it was only, you know, sort of like great diplomatic skill that prevented me from slugging him, because I probably had a good 20 pounds on him. But I realized that in these cultures that, you know, appreciated the sexy young thing, they also had a place of respect for the grandmother, or as they called them, the aunties, AUNTIES. There were many honorary aunties. And in cultures like that, they accepted these older women because they had wisdom and they shared it. And especially, you know, pre-internet, if you wanted to find out about something, it's like, oh my God, what do I do if I'm pregnant and I'm experiencing something? You had to go to your grandmother or your aunt and ask her for advice. So I don't know if that still exists in these cultures now that they have access to Google as well. But I think there was something that I appreciated in growing up, because my goal was to be old, and I'm amazed that I am now old. It's wonderful, except for when I get up in the morning and wonder, do I need a new hip or do I need a new mattress? One or the other.
Well, there's that commercial about, you know, if you get this insurance, you become like your parents.
Oh, yeah.
And so every once in a while, I'll sit down, like you were mentioning, getting up, and I'll like want to go, just like the guy. And I'm like, oh no, that means that I have become my parents, which I would be honored to be, because my parents are wonderful and amazing. But yeah, there's just things that are kind of staple staples of being older that I think a lot of us don't fall into those categories. I know how to open a PDF. I'm very comfortable with PDFs. I do, do a lot of stuff on internet and social media. But I think that this person the review that I read, people look at you differently. And even though that you are capable of all kinds of amazing things, as you get older, I think people kind of, associate certain characteristics with you.
Well, and I think it's so fascinating. That is something I like doing, is going back and looking at pictures. And one of my cousins emailed me a photo of, or not email, Facebooked me in the past week, of our grandmother and his mom and my godmother. And my grandmother was 56 and her husband had been dead for 2 years. And he was a life insurance salesman who had no money. He had no insurance. They repossessed the car. She and these two girls had to move to the city. And, she worked short order cook for like 20 years after that. She was 56. And I looked at that picture, and I know I've seen it before, but it's like she's got all this going on in her life, and she looks so full of joy.
Mm.
And I think maybe some past generations had some of that, yeah, I got to struggle, and I'm not going to stop and gaze at my navel and, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I can't sleep at night. And it's not always healthy just to power through things either. But I just thought about how beautiful my grandmother was in that picture and how much she had going on in her life. It's just interesting. So speaking of beauty, Meg, so if we feel overwhelmed by big numbers, what the heck should we be drinking and eating?
Well,
should I bring up this slide here?
That would be good.
You're the host. Yeah, well, I would say we're living the stereotype. I have selected from one more page's, I'll get it there eventually. There it is. An Indaba Chardonnay, because, when you think of, women going through a crisis who want a wine, what's their wine? It's Chardonnay. And usually I don't like Chardonnays because they're too oaky, but this one is really nice. It has a great mouthfeel. It's a little buttery. You can have it on its own, or you can have it with a little snack. And, chocolate is one of the basic food groups. And we have here in Arlington, we're very lucky to have a wonderful chocolate maker, Kingsbury Chocolates. And I discovered that their garam masala dark, which is dark chocolate, ginger snaps, and garam masala, goes really well with Chardonnay because this has a good gingery taste. Oh, pardon me. Oh my God, I just got chocolate crumbs on the trackpad of my MacBook. Oh, that is just yummy. Now, I realize that it might not be such a good idea to be promoting eating sweets and drinking wine, especially since we're sort of coming out of COVID, where, I laugh at the concept of COVID-15. What a low number. And thank God for elastic waistband pants. But I think what it is you should treat these things as just little treats. Some people might decide that a little treat for them is going out for a power walk or knitting or, learning a new language. I think we shouldn't treat food and drink as crutches or rewards, but just simply something that's part of life. And, earlier Mel was talking about some of her ancestors in Canada. And one of the things we take for granted these days is potable drinking water. I mean, we just turn on a tap and, we drink it and we don't think anything about it. But up until like, maybe 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you drank water, you could be really sick. So you were actually better off or safer health-wise, drinking beer or wine. So it's not that I'm encouraging people in this day and age to, knock back a bottle of wine a day, but the founding fathers and mothers managed to get by on a tremendous amount of alcohol. And I think we all respect Abigail Adams, and she was not a teetotaler. So
Amen.
I would say to Abigail Adams and to one more pages Eileen for having a major birthday.
Yay.
And to Mel for writing a great book. So.
Hey, so guys, we have a winner. Jamela 58 guessed. Yes, Rue McClanahan was only 51.
Wow.
Only 51. So, Jamala, if you could, it's probably, if it's okay with you, Eileen, it's probably easiest for them to email me just because mine's easy. If you email me your information at melanie@melanierigney.com, congratulations, and we will connect you with your prize. So that'll be fun. Next, we want to run into what is probably the thing that you think most of with menopause, and that is issues with sleeping. So I'm going to read this real short, and then I'll tell you my confession, and hopefully nobody I went to high school with is on this call. You already know this secret. You toss, you turn. When you do fall asleep, the slightest noise brings you back to full-eyed wakefulness. You go to bed tired and you go to sleep, wake up tired. There's so many things to try. Hormone replacement therapy, melatonin, white noise, exercise, boring memory challenges. Remember every teacher you ever had, starting with kindergarten. But some nights, none of them works. And you know what sleepless nights leads to? Restless, cranky days. There's no one surefire way to overcome disrupted sleep. Thankfully, there is one surefire way to keep it from turning you into a total grouch. Instead of fretting, offer up your sleeplessness, get out of bed, sit in a comfy chair with your Bible or other spiritual reading for a half hour. Pray the rosary, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, or have a spontaneous conversation with God. Your body may still be tired, but your spirit will be refreshed. As Jesus told us with so much love, come to me, all of you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. My sister has the presidents memorized. She can do them backwards and forwards. She also does vice presidents, and I think she does wives as well. And that's how she puts herself to sleep. What I did for a long time was my high school was a 3-year high school, and I obviously, if you know me, I was never a drill team person, and I was never a cheerleader. But I could tell you everybody who served on each of those drill team and cheerleading squads. And on a bad night, I would make it through all 3 years. Now, for me, I don't know if this will work for you. And again, I'm not trying to force my spirituality on you. What I have found for me is a much more effective thing is to say the rosary, because you got 50 Hail Marys. And I offer up one of the things I'm worrying about, or a prayer for somebody who I know needs it, who's on my list during that. And don't tell Pope Francis, but it's very seldom I make it to the end of the rosary. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay, because I think that's the purpose, to provide me with comfort and allay my fears and allow me to get the rest I need. So that's my little secret.
Can I just interrupt, Mel? Pope Francis. Sorry. Pope Francis himself has admitted to falling asleep while praying, and he explains it as he is just so comfortable speaking to God and with God that God gives him the grace to go to sleep. So I don't
think it's a boring thing at all. I really think it's God taking away, or higher power, or whatever works for you in your life. But taking away those burdens that you can't free your mind of yourselves.
It's like a release or a a release.
Yeah.
I know I listen to a meditation app every night, almost every night before I go to sleep. And it's just, it's a good routine thing so that my mind and body know that it's bedtime, but it's also a reflection time for me, because a lot of times when I'm doing it, I will say like a phrase from scripture or something that's very short, but that, has meaning to me. And then I can focus on that. So it's kind of a meditation / prayer time, but it's just, the day may be crazy and insane, but to have that at the end of the day, is just always a great way for me to, prepare my mind and body for sleep. So I'm a terrible meditator, even after doing it for years, but I continue to try.
But don't you think that's the thing too, Eileen?
Yes.
We always tell ourselves, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at that. And I do think that's a gift of wisdom that maybe comes about the same time that we're entering perimenopause, is that we don't have to be the youngest. We don't have to be the smartest. We don't have to be the best, and just kind of do what's helpful.
Yeah. But I will say one of the things that you wrote in there, which was about how you're like almost asleep and then you just wake right up and then you're wide awake. And I think that is the part that is when I should pray, because usually then I just get real irritated.
And so, if you're pissed off, you can't go to sleep.
Well, I know exactly, because you get yourself annoyed at your, body waking you up.
Right.
Exactly, and it accomplishes nothing.
No,
it accomplishes nothing. So I should, maybe just turn my meditation app back on again. Although thankfully I don't have that. I don't have the hot flashes waking me up at night anymore. So knock wood.
So Meg, any tips on what to do when we are in those restless, like Eileen said, you're just on the verge, and then I live in an urban environment, somebody's dog barks or there's an ambulance. It's nothing that's untoward. It's not like there's a nasty party next door, but
Yeah, well, it's I feel
you spent many years just having to grab sleep when you could.
Well, exactly. And it was like for the longest time when I was working, I was sleep deprived because I have the gift of sleep. It's like a coma, and I probably, like, my optimum sleep time is between 7 and 9 hours. And so for about like 15 years, I was getting by on like 4 hours of sleep.
Oh.
And, I was not an easy person to live with. My poor husband, really put up with a lot. But as a result of that, I was so exhausted. As soon as I went to bed, my head hit the pillow and I was gone. And so it was hard for me, when I was going through perimenopause, to figure out if my sleeplessness was caused by menopause or job stress or just being sleep deprived in general. Because I find when you're sleep deprived, you can't sleep. I mean, it's almost a vicious cycle. But what I found when I was in my 20s, my best friend was studying to be a psychiatrist, and she was doing her residency, and she was learning how to hypnotize patients, because apparently that's like part of the treatment process. And she taught me how to hypnotize myself. And I've actually been doing that for, it's like 40 years now. And I have never barked like a dog or clucked like a chicken or done anything embarrassing in public. But what I realized as I started taking courses in meditation and contemplation, that this form of hypnosis that she taught me is actually more like meditation, because it's just sort of getting yourself in a quiet place, calming your mind, and focusing on your breathing. And I found when I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, the world is going to blow up if I, don't hand in this memo on time. If I would just try to think about something pleasant, like, surf coming in on a beach, or the sound of the wind in trees on a mountaintop, and just breathing in and breathing out, that sooner or later I would fall asleep. But I also found that, and in fact, many of the very old, the people who are being celebrated for, making it to their 100th birthday or 115, always talk about having a glass of something. This, in fact, a really good friend of mine, her mom, who has also become a good friend, is she just celebrated her 96th birthday back in January, and every night that woman has a glass of scotch, sort of like a nice little, pour. And, that, and of course, excellent genes have contributed to this woman being in remarkable good health, all things considered. But I would also say one of the things to consider is a nice glass of red wine a couple of hours. And we have from one more page. This is a very nice. Oh, sorry. I'll get this right eventually. A very nice Italian red from the Longhi area, and it's got full of all that good flavonoid stuff that's supposed to help us. Thank you, French. And it's sort of good, relaxing. And then to sort of go with it, we have a very nice, oops, wait a minute. I think I ate most of the bar already. Again, from Kingsbury, this is a Belgian dark bittersweet chocolate. It's plain. It's just, there we go. It's 60% cacao. And I've gotten to the point where I prefer bittersweet chocolate. The bitter, the better. But I realize there's a sort of sweet spot, because if I get into maybe 85% cacao, then it peps me up. I go to sleep and I wake up at 2 o'clock and I'm like, I'm ready to run a marathon. Thank you very much. So you do have to get a balance in. And I think one of the nice things about aging for me is realizing I don't have to do it all, and I can do things in moderation. And remarkably enough, when I do things more slowly, more thoughtfully, and in moderation, I appear to have better results in the end. Who knew? So, yeah.
Well, I would also say, for whatever it's worth, and I wonder, what would you guys think if we did another question now on what do you have on your nightstand when you go to bed? And any answer is fine. Are there more products in the store than online? Someone asks. Well, I'm gonna let Eileen speak to that, but first, let's and then maybe Eileen, we could pick somebody just before the end, whether it's a glass of water or a chocolate or a glass of wine or just something, or in my case, since I go to bed so darn early, I also always have a nightshade, which helps. But maybe if people could just put in the chat pod what they have on their nightstand. And Eileen, if you could answer that question, are there more products in the store than online?
Okay, well, I'm just like typing furiously here because I completely failed in my duty to get the slide up there.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, we have some journalers. That's interesting because, one of the things we're going to give, one of the giveaways will be some candles and a journal. So that's good to know. So, Eileen, you want to share a little bit about the other things that can be found in One More Page, which is open again?
Well, online we have obviously all of our books, and we also online have access to or provide information about the books that we can order. But as Meg is demonstrating here tonight as part of our evening, we sell wine. Yes, and we sell chocolate, including chocolate from Kingsbury at a local Arlington chocolatier, and 2 other chocolate companies. We sell lots and lots of puzzles. In fact,
Is that right, Eileen?
Mel and Maureen, her sister, have ordered many of our puzzles, as have we have some customers who I think they probably buy more puzzles than books. Journals.
And of all different sizes, 500 pieces, 1,000. Yeah.
There's a very funny new 500 piece puzzle, and it's about puzzles.
Yeah.
The disappointing puzzle.
Yeah.
I'd also like to put in a plug for One More Page, because if there's a book that they don't have, they're quite happy to get it. And I've actually gotten into the habit now, if there's a new book coming out, I'll go to Amazon to get the ISBN number, and then I'll go to One More Page and ask them to order it for me. And if people are concerned about paying full price for a book, there's also a frequent shopper program at One More Page. So it's, Eileen, what is it? If you buy $100 worth of product, you get
if $150, you get $5 off. So
it's a rewards program.
Yep. And it was just Prime Days, and I found it a little annoying that one of the Amazon Prime Days was my birthday. I thought that was just in poor taste on their part, but that's me. But there's I was listening to somebody talk about Amazon, and one of the things that they said, which really resonated with me, and this was something this person said to their customers, is it doesn't make a difference to Amazon if you buy that book from them or not, but it may make a difference to your local store if you buy that book or that hammer or that purse from a local store versus Amazon. So just we talk about
Eileen, Jamala has our birthday too, and she's right between us in age.
Oh, all right. Another summer solstice baby, where we have the most hours of the day to celebrate our birthday. So happy birthday to you too.
Well, and I think this is just an example, because we just got to love on Eileen whenever we can. So I have a good friend in Western Pennsylvania who self-publishes books. She's pretty successful at it, and I chose to order that through One More Page, and had it in less than a week. And in the same way, I can't tell you what it was, but it's a very obscure crime book that my sister's getting for Christmas. And I think even Eileen, when I sent in the order, I was like, yeah, good luck with this. I don't need it till December. Because it's been out of print for like 10 years, and they had it for me within 2 weeks. So
we try, and we appreciate those challenges sometimes. If we're successful.
Well, let's move on to our last one, because I think this is maybe a challenge that we don't always associate with menopause and perimenopause, but I really think it is, because it's when other people in our lives are going through transitions as well. And maybe they expect more from us than we honestly can give. I call this one transitions. Your parents or other well-loved family members or friends in the generation before you are changing. Maybe your mom is retired from work outside the house and is texting or calling you every hour. Or maybe dad recently lost his walking or card-playing buddy and wants more of your time. You love them, but you truly don't have more to give. Life changes in your 60s and 70s, are hard too, as it becomes all too apparent that there's less sand left in the hourglass than flowing through it. Consider helping your beloved seniors find new ways of connecting with others. You don't necessarily have to rearrange your entire life. Just provide support as they rearrange theirs. As Ben Sarah wrote, remember it was of your parents that you were born. And I guess I just think that's a really important thing. I was not blessed. I'm now older than my mother was when she died. My father had an extremely difficult situation and was not living on his own. But I've seen a lot of friends and some of my relatives who, you come to that time and, you know, your kids are going off to college or they're in high school and you got the job thing going and all these things. And all of a sudden, mom and dad or your favorite auntie are there and you don't want to ignore them, but you truly have nothing left in the tank to give them. And I guess my little editorial, and then I'm curious what these two wonderful women have to say, but you cannot deplete that tank completely. Help them help themselves, help them find people, help them find activities. But if you spend every afternoon trying to replace your dad's walking buddy, you will become bitter and it will hurt your relationship. It's important for you to keep enough in your reserves that you are the loving, kind person you are and you aspire to be, not somebody who becomes resentful in a situation where really somebody needs help. They don't necessarily need you every day, but they do need you to help them figure out what to do with those hours. So that's my 2 cents. I mean, when I was a kid, our mother used to say, you know, like, go to the swimming pool, because we lived about 3 blocks away and it was a different time. And when I was 8, my mother unexpectedly had twins. And she encouraged us to entertain ourselves. And I'm not sure it's such a bad thing to do that on the other end.
Yeah. When I was growing up, my father, every Saturday or Sunday, we would drive to visit the relatives. And it wasn't always the same relatives, but yeah, we just would spend Sunday in the car, going to visit his aunts or one of my grandmas, or it just was important to him to, you know, be there with them. And it just, you know, there were 5 kids in our family, you know, we didn't have a lot of money, but it was just really important to him that we do that. And, you know, there was a time in my life earlier where I would just get so annoyed at my parents. Like, come on, you know, let's go, let's make a decision. And fortunately, and that was not that long ago, but, you know, fortunately, I've outgrown that. And my mother does need, you know, a lot more of my care and attention. And you know, she feels bad for taking it, but I feel blessed for being able to give it. And that's not something I would have felt, I think, 10 years ago. I think that is definitely something that comes with, you know, age, is appreciation of the people around us. So, yeah. Yeah. But I send notes out to my family when I desperately need help. So,
well, don't you think that's part of the important thing too, though, is listening to what the question is? Is the question really, will you come and spend 2 hours with me every day? Or is the question, will you help me figure out how to fill those 2 hours?
Yeah.
You know? And sometimes the way it's verbalized isn't the real question. I'm sorry, Meg. Carry on.
I was just going to say, it's, you know, it's kind of like that thing on the airplane when they say, like, you know, if the oxygen mask falls down, put your mask on first before you put it on your kid. And, you know, your instinct is to, like, go and help the kid first and not help yourself. But I think that's been one of the hardest things for me to learn, has been to take care of myself first and make sure that I'm in good shape and a good position to be able to offer help to others, and cheerful help, not resentful help. So yeah, it's I think as Eileen said, it's something that comes with age. It's like, I think as I've gotten older, I've become more appreciative of time. Because when you're a little kid, or when you're 10 or 20, it's like time is infinite. It's like you've got an eternity. And suddenly when you're, 50 or 60, and your classmates or your siblings or your cousins are starting to just go by the wayside, it's like, oh, maybe I better be, more appreciative of the time I have left and the people in my life.
Yeah.
I think that helps us discern, right? And I think maybe the pandemic did too. If there are relationships you didn't maintain during the pandemic, maybe there's a reason. And maybe that's a good thing for all of us to learn, that are, especially, after 40, 45, our energy is finite. Our time at all ages is finite. How will you spend it?
Yes.
And speaking of how you spend it, Meg, I gotta say, I am so thrilled you put in this chocolate, because it's as Eileen will tell you, Shay Rigney, we buy a fair number of books. Puzzles number 1, chocolate number 2, wine number 3, books come after that. This is probably my favorite chocolate ever from One More Page.
Wow. Well, I must say, I am not a white chocolate person. If it was called something else, I would be much more enthusiastic about it. But I mean, basically, white chocolate is just the fat from chocolate. And
it's sugar. That's all it is. It's sugar.
We were trained to avoid fats, but this amazing thing, it's white chocolate with candied lemon and freeze-dried raspberries, somehow just works. I think it's the candied lemon, because that sort of negates the white chocolate flavor, which to my palate is not a thing of joy. But this just somehow thrills me.
Girlfriend, we'll talk.
No, I just have to agree to disagree. And what I discovered, what goes very well with this, is this lovely sparkling rosé from the Perrin family of the Rhone area of France, La Vieille Ferme, the old farm. And it just really stands up nicely to the combination of white chocolate, the fruit, and the sharpness of the lemon. And at one point in my life, I was fortunate enough to spend some time in the Champagne region, and I was in the place that Moet and Chandon uses to entertain people who buy vast amounts of champagne. And we were able to go there because my husband was a friend of the woman who used to be the hostess there. We were not buying that many big cases of champagne. And the man who was the then host said, champagne goes with everything except chocolate. And I was like, no, this can't be true. And I realized what he was talking about is basically milk chocolate. Milk chocolate, the sugars in milk chocolate sort of interact with the sugars in champagne, because a lot of people, when they drink sparkling wine or fake champagne, say they get a terrible headache. And it's true, if you drink too much, you will get a headache. I mean, that's just a known fact. But a lot of the sparkling wines get part of their fizziness from adding sugars. And in fact, even the finest champagne houses do add a little bit of sugar to sort of enhance the fermentation process in the bottle. But you do have to be careful. So that's why I find I would not have a bittersweet chocolate with this, because the bitter flavor would overwhelm the champagne flavor, but somehow, Mel, your favorite chocolate or the, Shea Rigney favorite chocolate goes really well with this. So thank you very much, Eileen, for stocking this.
Okay, so ladies, I have found our third question.
Oh.
Wait, can I say who won our second question?
Oh.
I think who do you think?
Well, I was thinking
there are a number of people who put in really good responses. What do you think?
I was thinking of Erin Van Bennett because she has a stack of books, including several of yours. So
alrighty then.
That's for both of us, a stack of books, including.
That's good.
So Erin, you can reach out to me at One More Page. And she said she might stop by tomorrow, and I will be at the store tomorrow.
Yeah. So that would be good because we were thinking probably the wine would be the in-person one.
Yes.
Speaking of wine, I can't believe I'm going to do this, although I'm sure Meg will believe I'm going to do it. Here, because of what Meg said, you probably saw that little sparkle in my eye. I'm going to sing you 3 lines, or maybe 4, from a song. And you tell us, because we're all of a certain age, what the song is because of something Meg said. Just put it in the chat pod. And I promise I won't sing any. Yes, Jamila, that's absolutely right. You sent your email to me and we are cool. You and I and Eileen her people will talk to your people. We'll talk to my people. But for our third giveaway, which will probably include chocolate because it will have to be a local person, I'm going to sing this little song, and I want you to tell me either what the song was or who sang it, because, I am not known for my singing, but I am also not known for not singing. So she keeps a Moet Chandon in a pretty cabinet. Let them eat cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette. Okay, that's it. That's your guess. Whoever can figure out what that song was.
So while people are mulling over,
I knew what it was immediately.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're disqualified, Eileen. I would like to share with you a senior moment, or sort of menopause brain fog moment. I was over at One More Page, cruising the wine, as I had to do, because honest to God, I'm reading really slowly and I can't buy that many. I mean, if I waited to finish a book before I bought another book, I'd buy like 3 books a year. It's very embarrassing to admit, but it's the truth. But I tend to go through wine more rapidly than 3 bottles a year. I mean, what can I say? And my favorite sparkling wine is from New Mexico, from the Gilroy family, and it's called Sauvage. And I guess sometime pre-COVID, when I was over there, I must have been discussing Sauvage and rosé sparklings. And, I forgot all about that. And when we were getting ready for this program, Eileen said, well, what about rosés? And I was like, dutifully, okay, I'll sample some of the rosés that One More Page has. And I was over there earlier in the week, and I was raving about La Vieille Ferme because I've had their non-sparklings, and it's an excellent wine, sort of for the price, you get really good value. And I forget who it was. Maybe it was Rosie, said like, oh yeah, you were the one who encouraged us to buy this. I was like, ah! I was like, honestly, I had no memory of this whatsoever. And I'm thinking like, oh God, is it time to have the Alzheimer's test?
No, I mean, what a great recommendation. And you know?
Yep. Perfect.
I just like talking about
stuff out. I mean,
so I guess
I can't believe no one guessed that.
Oh, they're just, well, I can, because
it's
out of
my
street. Drop
Come
of
on,
a
Mel.
hat. She just really gets crazy as a pussycat, momentarily out of action.
Yeah, there we go. Someone's got
it. Okay, we have winners. Okay, so before we turn it over to Eileen to close us out, want to say I hope you had some fun tonight, but I hope you also picked up a few things. If you'd like to buy the book, please order it through Eileen. I think we've explained to you why independent bookstores are so important. Plus, you get a signed copy. However you want it signed. But I guess even more importantly, because those of you who know me know that I'm really not about selling books so much. I'm about trying to help people build community. And I hope there's something you got out of this that you feel less alone, or that maybe you'll be a little bit more open to reaching out to people, because the things that hurt us are the things we keep in the dark. And if you are having problems sleeping, and I'm just going to say it, having problems with vaginal dryness, having problems because you just, you were a star at 20 and 25 and 30, and all of a sudden you're 45 and 50, and guess what? You're not the youngest person in the room anymore. This is nothing to be ashamed of. Share it, celebrate it, embrace it, find the joy in your life today. Whether you buy my book or not, it's there. You are valued. You are important. You are enough. And so that's just kind of my message. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that Meg laughs about it, but she actually goes through a lot of work to put together.
She does indeed.
And so Meg, what can I say? Anyway, so, and
Thanks,
Eileen,
Mel.
thanks for hosting this crazy thing and joining us. And I'll turn it over to you to sing us out.
Okay. Well, again, Menopause Moments. I'm not going to say every page resonated with me, but many, many of them did. So definitely want to check it out. And I can't think of two other people who I would be more comfortable and have more fun talking about menopause with than Meg and Mel. And I hope you all had fun listening to us talk about it. Erin, I'm going to see you at the store tomorrow to get your wine. And Michelle, I'm not sure if hopefully you're local, because your chocolate will melt if we have to mail it to you. So I will put my email in here. So
you know what? Then we'll send Michelle the journals and the candles, and we'll send Jamila will get the chocolates.
Is Jamila local?
Oh, well, we'll figure it out.
Here, I'm just giving Michelle.
Michelle is local. Yay!
I just gave her my email so she can let me know when she's going to come by, and we'll have her. Oh yes, and the first winner was also a Michelle.
Excellent.
But she's going to email you. Oh my goodness. Okay.
We got it all good.
We got it all. Thank you guys all for joining us tonight. Thank you, Meg and Mel. As always, it is a joy and a pleasure to spend the evening with you.
And if I can just say, if you find this even mildly entertaining, we don't have to sell books to come on. I think all three of us would come back and just talk about anything if you want to. So if you find this mildly amusing, let Eileen know.
Wonderful. I think we are all straight, because Jamela 58, who is in Texas, is the one who's emailing you, Mel, for the
perfect. So
Jamela
Jamela 58, you will get the candles and the journals.
All right. Well, thank you, and good night, everybody. It's been a lot of fun.